We have Mr. DK Mittal, former Financial Services Secretary, and Mr. AK Purwar, former Chairman of the State Bank of India, a veteran banker and still very active in the NBFC space, joining in. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. Well, let me start with you, Mr. Mittal, since you have been actively involved very recently in reforming the public sector banks space. What is the low-hanging fruit?
The low-hanging fruit would be on the management side of these banks. One is the tenure of the chairmen and the EDs. Secondly, the selection criteria for the chairmen and EDs. Thirdly, induction of better talent in public sector banks at certain stage, maybe at the level of general managers or EDs. And lastly would be the remuneration package to these chiefs. I think these are the four issues in the management side which can be taken care of. And they would have a very multiplier impact on the performance of these banks.
Okay, so those would be sort of HR-related policies that they could lay out. But yes, so okay. Mr. Purwar, what about you? What would your view be on on what the expectations are this time around?
Well, if you look at the economy today, the economy is definitely expecting much higher growth rates in times to come. The foundation is being laid, a lot of groundwork is being done, and a lot more groundwork will be done in times to come. Seeing that if you're expecting 8 to 9% growth rate, if you're targeting 8 to 9% growth rate, you have to prepare the banking system for this kind of growth rate. And therefore, consolidation is one of the burning needs of the hour. That, well, can SBI as an organization, one big organization, do we require more such big organizations? I definitely feel that we require at least 4 to 5 organizations of the size of SBI. It may take a couple of years to do so, but that is one thing which is very badly required. As far as your talk of low-hanging fruits is concerned, let me go back to the economic situation. Today, there are a lot of stress on the banking side as far as the asset quality is concerned. A lot of sectors are there where the asset quality has become a huge issue. Road sector, power sector, mining sector, and so on and so forth. And mid-corporate sector, there is a huge amount of sickness. Therefore, there has to be a conscious policy that whatever assets we have invested in, can we work out a mechanism to quickly recycle these assets back to the system? I think that's one very low-hanging fruit on which a lot of work is required.
But what is this mechanism? What do you think the solution could be?
Well, restructuring.
Restructuring.
If you see, I have always believed that if the entrepreneur is a person of integrity, therefore, even in this situation, he is required to be supported to get back. In the mid-corporate sector, there is a huge amount of domain expertise which has been created in the last 50 years. Can we allow to let go this expertise? Certainly not. And therefore, restructuring, rehabilitation packages need to be worked out quickly for these companies to get them back on rails.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, what's your thought on consolidation? Can that be done quickly at all?
See, consolidation is a process which is time-taking. Even if we decide today, it will take a few years because the consolidation means the consolidation of processes, technology, and also reorganization of the front-line branches, apart from the HR issues which are there. So, I think everybody is in agreement that consolidation will have to happen. Now, the question would be, how do we take steps? Some of the steps should be creating a holding company, which is one of the least controversial issues. Then having, putting banks together. Sometime back, the Financial Service Department has created certain groups. Idea was that they have the interoperation of the manpower between the banks. Then they also bring their processes together. And at a very right stage, then you can look at the merger of these banks. So I think if we have a thought-out plan, it is possible to do over 3 to 5 years' time. But creating a holding company is the first thing which needs to be done to move in that direction.
Mr. Mittal spoke about longer tenures, a better selection process, and then he spoke about inducting lateral talent and remuneration. Well, I can understand in terms of extension of tenure, I guess that is only an executive order, but induction of lateral talent and better pay, with your experience, is that possible, sir?
It's definitely possible. You see, the point is, will has to be there. That if we have a will, that will we would bring out good quality people in the system and ask them to manage banks. give them market related, as near to the market related salary as possible. Definitely talent can be, laterally talent can definitely be inducted to the banking system.
No, won't there be union or resistance from within?
You see, you have to manage the resistance. There would definitely be some kind of issues. But then those issues, if the government is firm, if the management is firm, this resistance can definitely be managed. And secondly, that in the public sector system, there is a track record of recruiting people laterally in different positions. So I don't think that there will be very massive resistance to this issue. It has to be, resistance is required to be managed.
Okay. Mr. Mittal, I wanted your view on how, this NPA issue can be solved. Apart from, say, a process like restructuring, what are the other methods that can be undertaken to reduce the stress in asset quality, and how long do you think it could take?
See, the asset quality problems have arisen A, because of a regulatory imperfection, B, because of overall infrastructure not being appropriate, and thirdly, because of bad lending. Now, all the three factors together have created a havoc with the public sector banks. We don't find similar situation, say, in a private sector bank, without naming the top private sector banks are not facing that kind of a heat from NPAs. Now, let me say one by one, if we don't address the issue of regulatory imperfection, this issue will continue. What kind of lending to be done, whether you can lend to a project with 10% land for a road project, well, it can happen only in India. You can lend to a power project without everything being there, the coal linkage, the fuel linkage, the power irrigation arrangement, that can happen only in India. So these kind of things have happened over the last 10 years, merrily, and under the, so to say, the regulatory oversight, unfortunately. The second part is, if power is not available, what do you expect SME to do? They are going to be sick. There's no way they can be saved. The third part is, if the competence levels in the bank is not that much and the top management is only for a year or two, they would have no will and wish to take up certain corrective actions which will yield better results during their tenure. If they have a 5-year tenure, certainly they will be more concerned what happens in the 3rd or 4th or 5th year. If they are there for 1 or 2 years, they are not concerned about what happens today. They are only concerned about what happens today, not about what happens 3 years down the line. So I think we have to look at all the three issues, and there is no quick fix available. Let me say one thing globally. The problem of NPA is dealt by providing in the balance sheet of the bank impairment in the asset quality. Now in India, we do not have that structure. We still say first year provide certain percentage, second year provide this much percentage, after you become loss asset in provide this much percentage. So you are dragging on the asset without really finding a solution to it. Globally, they say this is the solution, this is the impairment, I provide fully in the balance sheet, and the asset starts working for it. So I think we have to look at the challenges. And the last issue I'd like to say in the regulatory imperfect, I don't have mechanism available to borrow for 25 years for a project whose life is 30 years. How can I borrow for 15 years or 12 years and pay for it? So you have a best report being prepared and presented to the bank. Okay, the payments will be made in 12 years. Everybody knows fully well that the asset will not be able to pay. But then the moment you have a problem with the economy, then you are out. So I think we have to address these issues together if we have to find a solution. I don't think there is a quick fix available for these issues. Each case will have to be dealt appropriately, but the management will have to be committed to see that they can handle the cases.
Okay. Well, I'll just give a minute to each of you gentlemen since we have to wind up. So what do you expect to hear on Saturday?
Well, I do expect a lot of work to happen. I welcome this kind of initiative. This is happening after a very long time where top of the country is addressing the issue. So it gives opportunity to both. The top to say what they want to say, what they expect the system to do, and the banking system to air what they want.
Any seminal change, one change that he might announce?
Well, I would not like to engage into a guessing game, but I definitely expect something to happen on the asset quality side.
Mr. Mittal?
See, the asset quality is basically a regulatory issue. Government has least role in that. I think this is a very good thing which Prime Minister is taking a understanding of what the problems are. My feeling would be they should be able to address the issue of the equity issue of the capital issue of these banks, which is through creating a holding company, and secondly the lot of HR issues which are there, which are in the domain of the government. If they can do that, I think the banking sector, particularly the public sector banking sector, will do well. And let me say that this sector is still the base of the economy, and this sector needs to be supported heavily.
Right. Well, we'll leave it at that, and again touch base with you gentlemen after Saturday when we will have a better idea of what is announced at that banking conclave. Thank you very much, Mr. Mittal and Mr. Purwar.